Just a big hello to everybody. I know that we'll just start promptly because I know that so many of you have had a full day already and have places you really need to get to. And so just big thanks for joining us on this webinar today for the Nourish to Flourish school food grant application. My name is Carolyn Webb. I work with Sustain Ontario, and just really pleased to share more about this grant opportunity that's a partnership between Sustain Ontario, Farm Boy, and Farm to Cafeteria Canada. Just a note, we'll be recording this webinar, and you will have a chance to get the recording afterwards, and it'll be posted online. So just very quickly, as I said, my name is Carolyn. I'm located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. I live, work, and play in Ottawa. And here's a photo I took this morning as I was walking my kid to school. It's of a local forest, just a minute for me. And I just wanted to express my gratitude for the lands I live on and the connection that I have, the way that the lands ground me and nurture me in my days. I also want to acknowledge that this is Truth and Reconciliation Week, and this is a time to honor the history, the cultures, the languages of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and to acknowledge the profound and enduring impact of the residential school system. So if I can find my chat box, oh, there it is. I will, yeah, there's the Truth and Reconciliation website and info, and there are some useful school resources on there as well that folks might want to tap into and access. I do see somebody saying that there's no audio. Okay, good. Good to know that others do have audio. Thanks for the chat. I also invite folks to introduce yourself in the chat if you would like. Et puis, je vais dire que eux entre vous qui vous voulez parler en français ou poser une question en français, vous pouvez juste lever la main ou poser votre question dans la boîte de chat et on peut répondre en français ou anglais. Oui, je peux répondre dans la question dans la langue posée. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to put up your hand at any point, although we will have a dedicated section at the end, and you can ask a question in your language of choice. I think I will share just Sustain Ontario is a province-wide cross-sectoral alliance that promotes healthy food and farming. And the Edible Education Network is an initiative of Sustain Ontario that works to connect individuals and groups in Ontario together and connect them with children and youth in healthy food systems. So I will go to the next slide. Our agenda for the day is to go over the Nourish to Flourish grant stream. We're doing our introductions right now. We'll share more about the grant stream, as well as talk about the application process and tips for proposals, have some additional resources shared, and then a question and answer time. And we might be out of here in a half hour. It depends on how many questions folks have. So we will help you get on with your day once you have all the info you need. So just a little bit about the partnership. Sustain Ontario, Farm Boy, and Farm to Cafeteria Canada have come together to join our collective strengths. Sustain Ontario has offered kind of partnerships and outreach, supporting the selection process, providing support to grant recipients. Farm Boy has provided the investment and supports the selection process, and Farm to Cafeteria Canada, as an administrator of grants, has provided the grant platform and is managing the applications, doing coordinating the impact reporting, and will be the one sending out the checks and with the name on the check kind of thing. So that's how the partnership is looking. But I will say all of us have a deep commitment to this farm to school concept, local food to school, just really the effort to have more healthy local food in schools that support community connectedness and to engage students in hands-on learning. I wanted to pass it over right now to Erin, who's going to share a little bit more about Farm Boy and the vision that came to make this happen. Erin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Wade. I am the manager of public relations and community investment here at Farm Boy. I've been the one that's been spearheading this along with some of my colleagues on the marketing team on getting this program up and running. So we're very excited to see all of your your faces here and your interest in the program. So a little bit about Farm Boy for those of you who are unaware of who we are or have never heard our story before. Basically, Farm Boy is your helpful neighbor who's a little bit of a magician. So really, when we look at how grocery shopping is for most people, we recognize that it's a boring task, and really our goal is to make it a little bit less boring and a little bit more of a fun, fresh market experience for everyone. For those of you who don't know how we started as a small 300 square foot store in Cornwall, Ontario. And basically our founder, Jean-Louis Belmer, and his wife would drive down every morning from Cornwall to Montreal, take the money that they had in their pocket and buy all the fresh produce they could, drive back up to Cornwall and sell it throughout the day. Now that we're over 50 stores, obviously, our mornings have changed a little bit, but one of the things that remains consistent is that commitment to fresh quality produce in our stores. Our buyers still go to the markets every morning, and within 48 hours, the produce that they selected is on our store floors. We've been known for our unparalleled customer service, our warm, welcoming environment, and really, we're transforming grocery, like I said, from that routine errand into a joyful experience. Now, the reason I told you the story about Jean-Louis was because it kind of solidifies the humble beginnings of where we started. We have deeply rooted small town values at Farm Boy. And one of those values that we've consistently tried to live up to is being that neighbor to our local communities. And as we go through all of our community programs, we always look at a way to give back to our communities and really be that stand-up neighbor. And we do that in a couple of different ways. And Carolyn, if you can go to the next slide, please. We hit on a couple of key pillars when we do that. The first is children and youth, and that comes to life through, a number of different programs that we run. We currently are running a program in our stores to support child and youth mental health. We do things like Toonies for Tummies, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with on this call, which is the program that supports in-school meal programs through the Grocery Foundation. Our second pillar is food and nutrition. And a lot of our activities and around that is about supporting local food banks, making sure that our communities have access to nutritious, healthy foods. And the third is community and experiences. And this is where the fun kind of lives. So we get to do a whole bunch of community events, whether or not that's something that's organized in our store or out front of our stores, or something that's already happening in the community that we activate at. It also includes all of our sports sponsorships. And the last way that we give back to our communities more in general is through our donation program, also called the Community Action Fund. And that basically supports local organizations, local charities, just with in-kind donations or monetary donations for the programs that they're running. So if we can hop on to the next slide, that would be great. All right, so Nourish to Flourish, the program that we're here to speak to today. So Nourish to Flourish is our charitable flagship program. And what I mean by that is that this is the program that Farm Boy is really pushing the hardest that we can. And as Carolyn said, we're currently the funding partner here. And the way that we provide those funds is in two different means. The first is through an in-store fundraising campaign or a POS campaign where your cashier asks the customer to make a donation. The second way is through corporate donations. So basically, Farm Boy has set aside money for each year to help support these grants. Really, part of the reason why we did this, as you just saw, was because two of our pillars are children and youth and food and nutrition. And we understand that right now, food insecurity is a very big issue, particularly with children. I know back a few months ago that the statistic came out that it was 1 in 3 children are going to school hungry. And that's just not something that sits right with the folks here at Farm Boy. The second part of this program is to support food literacy initiatives. We understand that there is a knowledge gap between where our food comes from and how it gets into our stores. And we want to help provide funds to programs that help address that knowledge gap. Next slide, please. So Nourish to Flourish is really, in essence, embodies our commitment to creating communities where every child has the opportunity to thrive, physically, mentally, emotion. And we believe that when children nourish, we empower them to flourish and in turn enrich the world around them. Now, I don't normally like to read off the slide like I just did, but I think that sums up exactly what we're aiming to do here. We want to provide kids both the physical and mental and emotional support that they need to go out into the world and make some change. We're really excited to see what the impact of these programs will do, how they will come to life in the schools. It's a very exciting program, and thank you all so much for showing your interest in it. Like I said, we can't wait to see what you do with the funds.
Thank you so much, Erin. I will share now a little bit more about the grants, and most of what I'm going to share is in the guidelines for applicants, but sometimes it's helpful to just run through it, and you'll have a chance to ask any questions that you have if there's anything that you'd like clarity on. So a little bit about the grants. There is 55,000 available this round for 30 schools across Ontario to fund a few different tiers, I guess. So there's 15 grants offered in the amount of $3,000, 5 grants in the amount of $1,000, and 10 grants of $500. And schools are welcome to apply for one or all of these amounts. The application form says, which ones of these do you want to apply for? And you can say whichever ones you want. And if there aren't enough $3,000 grants, we'll certainly consider you for a $500 one. It's one of those things where yeah, it just makes clear that those are the different levels. And so you won't really do anything wrong anyway, you can take them all off if you'd like. And it's administered over one school year. So really the application process, and I'll go through the timeline in a little bit, but will be up until, at the end of, mid-October for the applications to come in, and then there will be the selection, and then schools will have from January until June to implement the programs. And they're delivered directly to schools. And so we're not seeking applicants from community organizations. It needs to go directly to the school. The principal needs to sign off on the application and say that, they'll administer the funding, and then the check would be delivered directly to the school. Although in some cases we have provided for Indigenous communities, First Nation community and Inuit communities, we have provided funding to band councils or tribal councils who administer school funds. And so that can be an exception in that case for sure. So the use of funds, the $500 grants, for those funds can be allocated towards supporting an in-school meal program. So purchasing equipment, either kitchen equipment or garden equipment or something that will help the in-school meal program, or to educational programs and activities. And these may include an honorarium for a field trip, or for an elder to come in to the classroom, or a wide range of things that you might think of. And funds can't be used towards the purchase of food. And the reason these are all at different tiers is every school will have kind of a different idea of what they want to do. Some might just be a little initiative that you're like, I just want to put my toes in and start something small that would have a big impact. And others have a more fulsome idea that you want to run with that need a bit more funds. And so just apply for whatever feels most reasonable for you. The $1,000 to $3,000 grants, there's a few guidelines here, but mainly the portion of funds must be used to support in-school meal programs, including purchasing equipment and our food. And so we don't want 100% of it to go towards off-school field trips or to honoraria, but some to build the capacity of the school for the meal program. Again, that could be growing infrastructure, kitchen infrastructure, just other pieces, kitchen equipment, mixers, any things, kettles or crock pots, range of different things that could be useful. No more than $500 can go towards purchasing food. And we do want the food purchased to be as fresh, healthy, culturally appropriate, and locally and sustainably sourced as possible. So we'll just ask you a little bit, to describe that if you're asking for money for food funds. And a minimum of 50% of the grant needs to go towards the school meal programs. And so again, just asking that the whole money isn't going to off-school field trips or whatever. And then the remaining funds can support educational programs, equipment, activities. We have a list here of just a lot of, not requirements, but more ideas, kitchen equipment for growing and harvesting food, outdoors or indoors, special events such as food celebrations, guest speakers or educators, field trips, and many other possibilities. So in terms of eligibility, applications are open to all schools, kindergarten to grade 12 across Ontario. And so this includes schools in rural, remote, urban settings. Applications will not be accepted from school boards or community organizations, as I shared. And the selection process will look to select a greater proportion of schools in urban regions, as well as to schools that serve a high proportion of low-income, racialized, or other equity-deserving communities. But all the applications will be considered and considered strongly. So we encourage you to apply. In terms of the selection process, we will be working with kind of a rubric of, and it's all laid out in the grant guidelines of what we're looking for. But some of the questions around grant readiness are to ask of your school is, is there a desire and willingness to embed and strengthen food literacy activities in the school community? So this is not about 100% purchasing food. We know that there are big needs, but that's where we have heard that Ontario is about to getting really close to signing the agreement with the federal government to have more funds for school food programs for food to come soon. And so we're really hoping that that will fill the some of the gap. We know it certainly won't go and fill the entire gap that exists to make sure that all students have healthy food at school, but we're really hoping that that will fill some of the needs in Ontario. But these grants are really, to strengthen food literacy activities, to support the school food program, but not to 100% go towards food. We want to know, is the vice principal and principal supportive and willing to champion the initiative and to, again, sign off and be in support of the school's grant application? Is there at least one engaged community partner? Because community partners can make such a difference to connect folks. It could be a senior center who wants to come and grow food with the students. It could be a kitchen, a food center. It could be a wide variety of different folks, a daycare even, and just looking for those connections to create a bit more connection with the broader food system. To the proposed activities reflect and celebrate the diversity of the student population. And so we want to make sure that all students see themselves in the food programming, sort of regardless of their culture and traditions, that they can be proud of their own celebrations and identity. We want to also ask, will activities delivered as a part of the grant be open and accessible without stigma to all students who wish to participate regardless of their means? And so this doesn't mean that everyone needs to access it at the school, but if it's offered to a certain class or a certain grade, that all the students in that class or grade would be able to participate, and it's not based on, being able to pay or being able to access that in a way that does encourage stigma. In terms of the budget, we are not asking applicants to submit a detailed line-by-line budget, but just to explain what the funds will be used for in more general terms. So another budget item is, that in addition to not being able to use it all for food, we also are saying that the grant cannot be used towards staff salaries because it would all go there very quickly. And we will not ask applicants to submit a detailed work plan, but rather to just describe, what outcomes do you hope to achieve with the grant, activities that will help to achieve the outcomes, and how the grant will have an impact in the school community. So we're really looking on what grants would have the most impacts on the school communities. I also want to share that the Shad Foundation has also provided some grant funds to Farm to Cafeteria Canada for dig in to farm to school seed grants for Ontario schools. And these are in the same grant range with the same guidelines in Ontario. And so we have made it so that it's just one streamlined application, that all schools who apply for the Nourish to Flourish grants will have the opportunity to be considered for one of those dig in seed grants. There are about 5 to 7 that will be offered for Ontario schools. And so when you complete the application form, you'll just be able to tick a box to say, yes, consider me for the other the additional grants, and we will do so. And so it's quite easy to do that, and just want to make it clear that schools are only eligible to receive one of the grants, so not both. The application process, it's all available on the website. I'm sorry for my cat here, and she likes being front and center sometimes. We have some grant guidelines for 5 pages with the details of what to consider in your application. We have a template that shares the detailed questions that are in the submission form so that you can use it to just write down your answers before you put them in the form. We'll ask you to then complete the online form. They're really, I think, just about 4 questions that are where you'll share most of the details of your application. So it's not a very extensive application, but it will ask for some information about your ideas and what you'd like to do with the money. The important dates, September 9th we launched, and so that's done. Applications are due on Monday, I believe, October 21st. So that's in about 4 weeks, a bit less than 4 weeks, I think. And then in early January, we will notify grant recipients if they're successful or not. In June, we will ask the successful schools to share their narrative story and to complete a short report and grant experience survey to just share the impacts and what you did and what the impact was for your school community. I'll just put in the chat box a resource center that's on the Farm to Cafeteria Canada website that has a lot of videos and resources and other things that might be of interest. And so you'll find a lot of answers to different questions there. And it's time for question and answer period. So wanted to put it out there to folks. Do you have any questions? And I'll check the chat box. A good discussion. Yeah, feel free to just put up your hand if you have a question. Yeah, Simon.
Hi, so I just have a quick question about the $1,000 to $3,000 grants. It says that minimum of 50% can go towards costs, like food costs and things like that. But in the previous, it said that 500, no more than 500. So if we were selected for 3,000, which we're really hopeful for, would we be allowed to spend more money on food and equipment such as toasters and fridges and things like that? We also have a program in London called Growing Chefs, which we would love to bring in, but we have no money. We're a very low socioeconomic status school, and raising any money is tremendously difficult for us. So again, would we be allowed to spend most of that money on food? Like we spend $25,000 with donations on food, and we don't have enough still. So we're just trying to figure out if this is something good for us.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. So up to $500 can be spent on food, regardless of whether it's a $1,000 grant or a $3,000 grant. And then at least half, so if it was a $3,000 grant, 1,500 at least would need to be spent on kind of the equipment and the food and that. And then if you wanted to get Growing Chefs in, 1,500 of that could go towards Growing Chefs, let's say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we would be allowed to spend $500 on food, $1,000 on equipment, and then the remaining on programs for the school.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for your time and help.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I see a question in the chat. Will the webinar be posted? Yes, we'll share it on the Sustain Ontario website, and I'll share it out to all the people who registered for the webinar. And when will the funds be shared with those who are successful? In early January. So by the time we kind of screen the applications and have a review team look through them and do the final selection, it'll be the end of the, it'll be early January when we get in touch with folks. Erin, hi.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm on behalf of some schools because they're all in a board-wide staff training today, so they were able to make it on.
Yeah.
The question is that across the 3 public high schools, they run a similar program, a land-based learning program for Indigenous students, and they're wondering if they can apply as a collective. And so can this similar program sort of apply for like the the $3,000 grant as opposed to applying individually for it. I think the ease for them to do it so that they can actually do similar land-based food learning programs. So
And then each
more-
school would want to apply for $3,000.
no, like, so then it would be 1,000 per school, but it's the same project distributed over 3 schools.
I think in that case, I would suggest that one school be the host kind of thing and
Mhm.
apply for as the collective, if you think
Okay.
that that might be feasible.
So then they would then write in though that it's in partnership with the other 2 schools
Yeah.
and what program it would be in? Or would you suggest that they apply separately? I think, like sometimes I think as someone who like,
Yeah.
I think teachers and parent volunteers, like it gets overwhelming filling in applications if they're not used to ever filling in an application or a funding grant. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to facilitate the
Mhm.
ease for them.
Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure. And it depends on their capacity. It also depends on if the programs would look any different at the different schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Happy to have it back and forth though. Send me a note if you want to chat more about it. And the
Great.
same goes out to anybody on this
Yeah.
call. If you want to have a separate chat, I'm happy to pick up a phone and talk through.
Okay.
circumstances.
Thanks for putting this all together, you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Erin. I see a question from Catherine here. Does a garden count as equipment cost? Yeah, if it's for seeds and equipment and garden bed stuff and who knows, rakes, trowels, any of that, that's for sure equipment costs, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Daniel.
Hi, I just was listening to some of these questions and obviously the merit criteria for the programs. I'm not sure what you can share about the score, but I know that you are looking to meet objectives, and obviously the lower income neighborhoods and communities would be better suited for this program. I wouldn't consider like our school to be in one of those communities. However, we have no program at all. So would that almost allow us at least to have an opportunity, even if we're not in that, to,
Yeah.
create something from scratch and introduce a new program?
Yeah, I mean, everybody will be considered, and a lot is going to be based on the impact that can be had. And I would say that in terms of selection, all of the applications will be screened to make sure that they fit like the requirements, Some applications that we've received already are asking 100% for food funds. And so those would be screened out. They don't fit the criteria. And, any schools from outside of the province and all that will be first. Just no, they're not eligible for this. And then we'll look through, what would be the impact on the school community? Is it, as you said, serving students and communities, low income and marginalized folks? And then does it meet kind of the vision of this work and a few other things? And then we'll likely, we will be trying to balance different factors. And so it's really hard to say kind of when it all comes down to the final selection of it. A lot is based on just trying to balance representation across the province and the impact it'll have. And we wouldn't want to fund, let's say, all programs that might want to do gardens. It's like,
Right.
valuable to just fund a range of different experiences and that. And so I would say very much worth applying.
Okay.
And hopefully it won't be too onerous, but
Well, from our point of view is we have a need, and I think that even in the communities that are maybe like there's the have-nots and then there's the haves. I feel like even today the have communities in the schools, they're not as they're especially a food program is something that we used to be an afterthought and now is actually becoming almost required, right? And it's mostly just about what is the new middle class, what is that new lower class actually look like, and what preparedness do they have for students going into school. So that's
there's a lot of
we're
rising need right now. So
yeah, that's what we're noticing in our community is that there's a bit more needs, and we may like I said, we may not be in the low income community, but it seems like there's still that growing need from the student population.
Yeah. for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Simona?
Hi, I just have a question pertaining to, I guess, kind of one of the other comments earlier. If you have funds for, so we have taste buds that comes into our school for their nutrition program, but our school is looking to expand it to do a breakfast, like a morning breakfast every day of the week. Would some of that money be able to go towards that and not be considered like food? Or is that because it's a separate program?
I mean, if you're talking about developing, purchasing kitchen equipment and plates and materials to serve and engage the students, then that is within the boundaries of this. If it's all for food, then not so much. So it depends what you have in mind for the costs that you're looking at.
Okay, so if like going back to, I think it was Simon. So if we had like organized the rest of it and like $1,500 went towards, I know he mentioned another program, not sure if it's like the same as Taste
Educational
Buds.
program. No, Taste Buds is more serving the food. Growing Chefs is it's chefs who come into the classroom who
Okay.
teach the kids how to cook and think like a chef, and food literacy activities in that. Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, I was just trying to see if there was a workaround.
Thanks. Okay, looking at the other questions that have come through. Is there a report or program update due for schools after they've received the grant and at the end of the grant period? Yes, in June, I think we will be asking for schools to share their stories. It's usually a short paragraph or video or a few paragraphs if you want to elaborate on what you did and sharing some photos. And then a report template to fill out with just what were the impacts, what do you think, did, and to share a few, some of the metrics that we have in mind that are based on our evaluation framework that we developed a while ago to try to measure kind of the collective impact of this work. And so it would be a very straightforward, like fill out the boxes to report on the success of your program. I see another question. Would certain or perhaps all components to build a hydroponic garden also count or qualify as equipment costs? I'd like to get small outdoor plots going as well as something indoors during the winter months. And yes, garden equipment of any kind, hydroponic, or there's grow towers or all of those can be considered equipment costs. Is this a one-time grant or can we apply year over year? Yes, Farm Boy is pretty interested in having this continue into the future on a yearly basis. And Erin, what was the idea? Is it to launch the next application process even in the spring?
Yeah, so the next window would be in May, and I'm thinking mid-May. I can't remember the dates.
Yeah. Or maybe early May to mid-June. Yeah, we'll
yeah, it's a 6-week period, so I think it was mid-May to the end of June is what we did. But I don't know if I'm getting the POS campaign mixed up with the dates for the applications.
Yeah, but it will be coming again. And the idea is that then schools would have all of 2025, 26 to be able to do it. And so all of the school year is the plan for the future grant opportunities. Thanks. And if we're successful in receiving funds, can we apply the next year as well? Or is there a wait to be considered again? We have not contemplated that, but I would suspect there would likely be the need to wait and to have other schools receive the grants, but that's something that we will be having to figure out for the next round. We haven't had to think about that yet, so. Questions? This is good. Anyone else? Can a school apply twice if they have two ideas? I don't have a very clear answer. I would tend to say it's best to just submit one solid application. although you can do what you'd like, we won't filter you out, but I would say probably best to put forward your best idea. But yeah, I don't think I have a pretty firm, again, as if you apply twice, we won't remove both of your applications, but yeah, I guess that's up to you. All right, I think I will show my last slides then. So, oh, that started from the beginning, my apologies. There, so as a reminder, applications are due on Monday, October 21st by end of the day. They need to be submitted using the online form that's available from the website and other materials. And there's a little picture of the application form. So it's an online portal, and I just have to tick off a bunch of boxes, enter contact info and a number of other things. And then I think, like I said, there's about 4 detailed questions. We're recording the webinar. It will be posted on our website and sent out to you within the next week. And you can send me any other questions that come your way. So feel free to stay behind if you do have any more questions. But yeah, no, many of you have to get on with your day and do other things. So just a big thank you and good luck with your applications if you decide to apply. Thanks for joining us. And again, reach out if you want to discuss anything further. Thanks so much.